Here's yet another wonderful power punctuation lesson, trying to get you through the spice rack so you can stop being salt and pepper cooks and start using some paprika and some chilies and some herbs to make more delicious, much more delicious writing pieces. Today we're going to talk about colons. And first thing, of course, I need to remind you is that these are not the same as semicolons. Colon is like two periods double stacked. Semicolon is a period and comma kind of hybrid. To think about the difference, they do overlap, but my way of explaining the difference would be to say colons explain and semicolons connect. And you want to look also at the semicolon uh, power punctuation video if you're confused about the difference between the two. So colons explain. What do I mean by that? Well, the most familiar use of colons is in dictionaries for definitions, and you can also include these kinds of definitions in your essays. Um, and it's where you want to actually literally define a word. Colon, a punctuation mark often used to present dictionary definitions. Man, an obsolete, falsely gendered, anti-ecocritical general noun referring to what is now called humanity. So, trying to be clever there, also trying to be non-gender binary. But the point is that you could put such a sentence into your paper. If you don't punctuate it correctly, it'll look grammatically incorrect. So this isn't a case where you can just put in a comma or even a period. It is a case where it would be very common and very accepted to use a colon, exactly like a dictionary. So that should be the most familiar ones. All right, a quote colon is used to introduce a quote. This is very frequently used to introduce a quote, but only when your quote sandwich, when the sentence that introduces the quote is a complete sentence. So here's a couple examples quickly. Housden makes a radical statement. Quote, erotic love and spiritual ecstasy are the same energy. And notice that here I've used a colon. Now, I could use a period there. The colon emphasizes that what comes next is an explanation, a quote that basically explains my intro here. So none of these power punctuation marks are ever required in most cases. They are always optional. That's why you don't tend to learn about them in, say, high school classes or lower level writing classes. But all real writers know how to use them because they can be powerful. In Whitman, Felsteiner sees poetry and the planet as united. Quote, his words are tied in one with nature's rhythms. And again, Professor Felsteiner has used a colon to emphasize that this sentence explains and introduces this quote. All right, now that's number two, quote colon. So we've covered definition colon, quote colon. Now we're going to talk about an explanation colon. This is a little favorite of mine. Not as many people know this one. In this case, you're linking two interrelated independent clauses or two sentences is the way students would tend to think of it. The first sentence demands an explanation. The second sentence provides it. So you tend to say something somewhat mysterious before the colon in a complete sentence, and then you explain it in another sentence afterwards. The colon emphasizes the connection between them, that one is explaining the other. Eco-criticism is difficult to teach, colon. Most contemporary students live in a consumerist panopticon, dying slowly of affluenza and nature deficit disorder. So why is it difficult to teach? Here's the reason. Felsteiner is spacey, absent-minded, and clearly unclear. Colon, he's a Stanford professor, not a community college instructor. So here's my statement that he is absent-minded and spacey. Well, why? Because he teaches at a university and is not as clear as a community college instructor, the poor guy. The colon emphasizes the explanation. So you can take those as, again, optional ways to use colons. And if you start looking, you'll see them all over in professional writing. People really do use these things. Finally, there's the list colon. This one is used any time that you have a long list, but it has to be after a complete sentence. So I got to tell you, teaching this to students sometimes drives me crazy because it tends to be misused. That's why I have correct and incorrect examples here. The correct way to do this would be to write a complete sentence like this. I went to the store and bought a wide range of foods, colon, fruits, vegetables, frozen pizza, and pasta. It is incorrect to just throw the colon in between the verb and the direct objects, which is what this sentence does. I bought fruits, vegetables, frozen pizza, and pastas. I bought is not a standalone complete sentence in the English language. So the little test you need in your brain is like you can put in a colon to introduce a list, but if and only if that colon could be replaced by a period. And In other words, could the sentence to the left of the colon here stand all by itself? In many things, I'll let you read the last example for yourself. I don't want my video to go too long. I just want to come back around to my salt and pepper example. Even beginning chefs know how to cook with salt and pepper. You're not going to die. You're not going to starve to death. I got all the way through my undergraduate education at a very fancy place without anybody teaching me how to use colons or dashes or semicolons or any of these power punctuation moves. But my writing was enormously improved when I did learn how to do it, and I suddenly realized that I had been trying to be a reasonable cook without any knowledge of how to use the whole spice rack. So it takes some practice, but it's really addictive and powerful if you can learn how to do it. Looking forward to seeing you try these in your own essays.